That brown bottle of hydrogen peroxide sitting in your bathroom cabinet costs 89 cents. It's quietly doing 9 jobs that the lawn store, hardware aisle, and pest guy would rather you didn't figure out. Every single use I'm about to give you is a product you stop buying. 9 of them. The one I'm saving for last comes straight out of a university greenhouse trial almost nobody outside the research world ever saw. Tell me down in the comments what state or zone you're gardening in. A couple of these change a little depending on your heat. I learned half of this the expensive way after I dumped $60 on a fungus spray in summer 2019. It did less than the bottle already under my kitchen sink. The last one is the one I wish somebody had told me 30 years ago. Let's start with the first one, because it pays for itself in about 10 minutes. Root rot in potted plants and seedlings. If you've ever lifted a houseplant and smelled that swampy, sour stink, that's bacteria eating roots in soil with no oxygen left in it. Here's the science at the kitchen table level. Drugstore hydrogen peroxide is H2O2, which is just water with one extra oxygen atom hanging on for dear life. When it hits soil or a wound, that extra oxygen breaks off, kills off the anaerobic junk, and puts oxygen right back into the root zone. The mix is 1 tablespoon of the standard 3% peroxide into 1 cup of water. Pour it slowly over the soil until it fizzes and stops. Don't do it daily, just when the soil smells off or a plant is sulking. 1 pour, and a wilting peace lily I'd already mentally thrown out was standing up straight by Sunday. Number 2. Seed starting. This one comes from work done at the University of California's Agriculture Extension going back decades. They found a short soak in dilute peroxide softens that hard seed coat and knocks out fungal spores, hitching a ride on the outside of the seed. You want 1 teaspoon of 3% peroxide in 1 cup of warm water. Soak okra, beet, parsley, or any of those stubborn slow germinators for about 4 hours, then rinse and plant like normal. Germination jumps. I've had parsley up in 9 days instead of 3 weeks. If you've been blaming yourself for bad luck with seeds, it was almost never you. It was the coat and the mold. Number 3. Powdery mildew on squash, zucchini, cucumbers, and roses. That white dust that shows up in August is a fungus, and fungus hates oxygen on its surface. Mix 1 tablespoon of 3% peroxide into 1 cup of water in a clean spray bottle. Spray the tops and undersides of leaves in the early evening. Never in full afternoon sun or you'll scorch them. Once a week is plenty. I had a yellow crookneck plant in 2021 that looked like somebody had dusted it with flour. 3 sprays, 4 days apart, and the new growth came in clean green. The neighbor across the street was still spraying a $22 bottle of fungicide. Number 4. Fungus gnats. Those tiny black flies buzzing around your indoor plants in winter aren't really the problem. The problem is their larvae in the top inch of soil, chewing on tender roots. Let the soil dry out for 2 or 3 days. Then water with 1 part 3% peroxide to 4 parts water. You'll hear it fizz. That fizz is the larvae dying on contact while the roots themselves shrug it off. Plant cells handle that little burst of oxygen just fine. 1 treatment usually does it. 2 if you've been ignoring them since Thanksgiving. Every time you've walked into a big box garden center and bought a special gnat spray or those little yellow sticky cards, you were paying $8 to $15. You were paying for something a bottle of peroxide handled for pennies. Number 5. Sanitizing your pruners and your seed trays. Researchers at Oregon State and Cornell have both pointed out for years that more disease moves around a garden on dirty tools than on the wind. Tomato blight, fire blight on apples and pears, black spot on roses. You can wipe blades with rubbing alcohol, sure, but straight 3% peroxide right out of the bottle works just as well. It doesn't dull the steel and won't leave that oily film. Spray the blades, wipe with a rag, move to the next plant. For seed trays and small pots at the end of the season, use a 10-minute soak in a 50-50 peroxide and water bath. This kills off damping off fungus that would otherwise wipe out next year's seedlings. You protect next April and October for almost nothing. Number 6. Reviving an established lawn that's gone patchy and compacted. This is the one for the folks who've been mowing the same yard for 20-30 years. You're tired of the lawn service quoting you $400 for an oxygenation treatment. That's literally what peroxide does, for the price of a coffee. Mix 1 cup of 3% peroxide into 1 gallon of water in a watering can. That covers about a 10 by 10 patch. Pour it over the tired, yellowing, or compacted spots in the early morning, then water lightly an hour later. The oxygen drives down into the root zone, kicks the soil bacteria back into gear. The grass perks up inside a week. My back lawn had a dead patch under the maple I'd given up on. 2 treatments, 11 days apart, last May. By June, it was the greenest spot on the property. Number 7. Soaking the soil around mature tomato plants and rose bushes once a month during the growing season. Same ratio as the lawn, 1 cup of 3% peroxide into 1 gallon of water. Pour slowly around the drip line, not on the leaves. What this does for a plant that's been in the ground for 5, 10, 15 years is wake up the soil biology that's gone sluggish. Older garden beds get tight and tired. The peroxide flush opens up oxygen pockets. The worms come back to those spots. Tomato production picks up noticeably in the next round of fruit. My wife's climbing rose on the south fence, planted in 1998, threw more buds last July after 1 monthly soak than it had in 3 years. This isn't a beginner trick. This is for the garden you already love. Number 8. Mealybugs, aphids, and spider mites on houseplants and greenhouse plants. These soft-bodied bugs breathe through tiny holes in their sides called spiracles. When you mist them with a 1-to-3 mix of 3% peroxide and water, the oxygen burst essentially shorts out their breathing. The plant leaf, with its waxy cuticle, doesn't care. Spray directly on the bugs. Get under the leaves where they hide. Repeat in 4 days to catch the next generation hatching. I cleared a bad mealybug infestation off a Christmas cactus my mother-in-law gave us in 1994. The nursery tried to sell me an $18 systemic. You keep the heirloom plant, you skip the chemical, and you keep the $18. Number 9. Using hydrogen peroxide as a pre-plant root dip for transplants. This is the one buried under 50 years of marketing. It came out of trial work at the University of Florida's horticultural research stations, studies on root oxygenation in hydroponic and container systems. The trick is for transplants, especially tomatoes, peppers, and any bare root tree or shrub you're putting in this spring or fall. Mix 1 tablespoon of 3% peroxide into 1 quart of room temperature water in a bucket. Before you set the plant in the hole, dunk the entire root ball or the bare roots into that bucket. Just 60 seconds. What happens is every dormant fungal spore, every bit of damping off, every transplant shock pathogen sitting on those roots gets neutralized. This happens at the exact moment the plant is most vulnerable. The oxygen also primes the root tips to start pushing new white feeder roots within 48 hours instead of the usual 7 to 10 days. Transplant shock, the thing that kills more new plantings in American backyards than drought and frost combined, basically disappears. I started doing this with every tomato seedling I set out in 2022. I have not lost a single transplant since, not one. The nurseries don't tell you because they make money when your transplant dies and you come back for another. The fertilizer companies don't tell you because their root starter liquid is a $6 bottle of mostly water. It does less than your peroxide does. 6-0 second dunk, bare root or potted, before it ever touches the soil. Do it this weekend on anything you're putting in the ground and write down the date. You will not believe how fast it takes off. 9 uses, 1 brown bottle, 89 cents. Somewhere along the line we got talked into believing every problem in the yard needed a separate product on a separate shelf with a separate price tag. Most of us went along with it because we were busy raising families and paying mortgages. We trusted the label. You just took some of that back. Down in the comments, tell me what state or zone you're gardening in. Tell me which one of these 9 you're trying first. I read them. I answer the ones I can. Hit subscribe if you want to keep clawing back the practical know-how that got quietly traded away for shelf space and slick packaging. The next video I'm putting together is on 9 uses for plain white vinegar in the garden. There's 1 inch there involving fire ants and a coffee can that I had never seen anywhere. A retired county extension agent in Alabama told me about it last fall. You don't want to miss that one.